Hey everyone, welcome back to CasualFanatic. Trevor's back.
Hey guys,
How's it going?
it's going good. Enjoying the warm weather today, so that's been great, and hopefully it stays that way. But I know it'll get a little bit cooler on Sunday.
I'm
So
seeing some reports that throughout the entire country, it's gonna be very up and down for a bit. There's a lot of weird, not that they weren't clear before, but I feel like the effects of climate change are becoming more obvious, and things like it's not even necessarily because I feel like a lot of the not that there are a lot. I keep interrupting myself. Sorry. I feel like there are not a whole lot of people that are climate change deniers anymore, but for those that still are, I feel like the reasons that they often proclaim for not believing in it is because, and that's why the terminology has changed from global warming to climate change, because global warming, everyone thinks like, oh, well, everything's going to get hotter, and then people get confused when things get cold, but it's not a one-way thing. Like, the problem with climate change is unpredictability, and parts of the globe are going to get hotter and parts are going to get colder, and like the polar ice caps or whatever, like when it gets warmer there and those things melt, that makes it colder in other places. Like, that's just how global climate works. But yeah, I think it's especially recently been very evident that it's becoming harder to predict what's going to happen. And one day it's snowing and the next it's 80 degrees and then it's 20 the next night. And it's just a bunch of nonsense. I personally prefer colder weather, so I'm not a huge fan that it's warm right now, but
yeah, I think Colorado's always kind of been that way. So I know other places tend to be a little bit more consistent, but yeah, over here we can definitely, like you said, go from snow one day to in the 70s the next. So
but also I feel like everyone it's funny because everyone seems to think that their place is like that. Because when I lived in Texas, people said the same thing. They'd be like, there's the famous saying is like, oh, if you don't like the weather, wait 20 minutes. But like everyone says that no matter
which
where
is
you are.
weird. I'm like, okay, uh, well, being from Colorado, like I've experienced it, but I'm like, where else are we really seeing snow and sunny weather in the same day potentially?
I mean, in the few times that I visited Florida, it would be completely cloudless sky, and then without warning, torrential downpour for like an hour,
Sure.
and then just back to a sunny day, no problem.
I could see the storms rolling through, but you're not changing temperatures that drastically within that amount of time. You're not seeing a 30-degree shift in temperatures in 4 hours.
But I feel like there are just differences in how the weather changes. But I think no matter where you live, no one has like stable weather.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah. But other than the weather, though, coming up, let's see. This week, gonna be going to gonna be starting that new role, so I'm looking forward to that. So that'll be fun. So transitioning and handing things off, so that's always fun.
Is that further away than where you're currently working?
It is same company. I'm just going from the infrastructure team to the security team.
Oh, okay.
So that's just kind of getting geared up for that. So that's been taking up a little bit of focus. But then Deanna and I are going to start watching American Primeval because I showed her that trailer and she's like, okay, we got to watch that.
I haven't heard of that.
That was very good. It's a limited series set in, I don't know, the late 1800s Western sort of thing, but it was, I don't want to say the bad guys, but like some of the troublemakers in the series happens to be Brigham Young and the early Mormon movement out west, and I did not know how ruthless that group was. So that was a kind of an interesting story. So
I have been, this isn't really a recent thing, but like one of the YouTube channels that I follow, he discusses religion a lot, and one of the more fascinating aspects of Mormonism is that, like, obviously back in the days of like the traditional stories in like Christianity or Islam or Judaism are all older than written records because stories were just passed along verbally back then. And so obviously we have all of these tales of miracles and things like that, but there's less solid evidence for them, and not that there's solid evidence for Mormonism, but as far as testimony, the testimonies that we have for these other miracles are all second, third hand. Like, people have heard these stories and are then writing them down, versus like one of the founding, unless I'm completely wrong about this, but I believe one of the founding myths, I don't say that in a dismissive way, but one of the founding stories of Mormonism is that Joseph Smith found the gold plates or whatever that had, I think they had writing on them. I'm not that familiar with Mormonism, but something about these gold plates that Joseph Smith found, and then he founded the Church of Latter-day Saints. And there are like written testimonies, and I think some people still alive that claim to have seen him find those plates. So it's like, if this is a miracle, that is the most
first-hand account,
right?
It is the closest we get.
One of the only first-hand accounts that we have of something like that.
Mm-hmm. And it's it's interesting because even with how relatively new the Latter-day Saints are, they have their main organization, so that like they have the main governing body of the Church of Latter-day Saints, but they have offshoots, like almost on the different tribes that split off from the main branch. And I learned that by I'm currently listening to an audiobook about one of the wives from that show, Sister Wives. So one of the wives, it was, wrote a memoir and was talking about it, but she's like, we practice polygamy, but even at that time of her upbringing, that was no longer a recognized practice of the main sect of Latter-day Saints. And so like we were part of this clan of Latter-day Saints. And I was like, oh. So everyone kind of has their own little pockets that they kind of hail from, which I found that to be interesting.
This is I guess not really related, but
this whole conversation so far is not related to what we're here for today.
But something you said reminded me of, there's this new reality show, I think it's on Netflix. I wish I could remember what it's called. It's like Newly Amish or something like that. I don't know if you've seen a trailer for it, but they take like, I want to say like 5 or 6 people, and these people, obviously they know they're on a TV show, but they agree, they're like, hey, we're gonna just become Amish. And in the trailer they were talking about like, yeah, I just think technology is ruining our lives, and I think I would be happier in a simple life. And so they take all of these modern people and just put them in an Amish community, and then I guess there's some mechanic for them getting eliminated or something like that, which kind of I guess defeats the purpose if they're really interested in doing that. But yeah, I haven't watched it, but it sounds like it could be interesting.
Yeah, I have to look into that one, because it reminds me of any sort of like the swapping lives sort of shows, but with a competition aspect to it. So is there a winning Amish person by the end of this?
You get to stay Amish.
You get to stay here, buddy. You earned it. Oh, that's wild.
But I'm sure there's a cash prize as well. I don't know.
Well, the answer to giving up modern living is just more chores. So if you like that, and you agree, you jive well with staying busy, probably good for you.
I'm sure there is an aspect of it where, like, obviously the manual labor is harder, but I guess if you already have a manual labor job, it probably wouldn't be that big of a difference, but there would be more, like, once you're done with your work, you're done. It's not like, I just have to keep working because I have to get 40 hours in. It's like you have a job and you do that job.
Well, and to be fair, like that's something I miss about working in food service, because it doesn't matter how long or hard the day is. When it's done, it's done. Like, I can't take that work home with me in any capacity.
Of course, it also can bite the other way, where like if you got something to do, you can't just clock out.
I cannot do it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's like, tough. Well, I got to keep working until I do it.
Yeah, so there's a trade-off there. So
but yeah, I guess we'll get to the main topic.
Yeah, sounds good.
So today we are going to be talking about the 2025 movie Bugonia. It was directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, written by Will Tracy, based on a 2003 movie by Jang Joon-hwan, which we can talk about later, and stars Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons, and Aidan Delbus. Estimated budget of somewhere between 45 and 55 million. And it looks like so far it has made 43 million worldwide. So not doing great box office wise, but it is doing well in the critical atmosphere. It obviously is, there are several nominations for the Oscars. So although it's not making a lot of money, it seems that a lot of people who did see it are enjoying it.
Makes sense. I would agree.
It's unfortunate that it's not profitable because, as we know, Hollywood revolves around profit. And when you have movies that don't make their money back, studios are less likely to fund those movies. And so then you just have to rely on like independent filmmakers who are just like, I'm just going to pay for this myself. I don't need a studio.
Yeah.
But that's a lot harder. What did you think about Bugonia?
I thought it overall it really was not what I was anticipating. It was good. I like the sense of not knowing, like, from the perspective of Emma Stone, like, I've been kidnapped, what's next? Obviously the people holding me captive are not stable anyways.
Right.
So have you navigate that one. I enjoy that ride of it, but everything else that happened, I don't know when exactly it flipped for me, but I caught on to where it was going, and I was like, "Really? It's for real now?"
I'd be interested. We have to be careful about what
I
we
know,
say here,
I
but
know.
I would be interested to see at what point that switch happened.
Yeah, and I had to go back and catch myself and think, okay, what was this when it hit for me? There was just some sort of shift for me, and that for that reason, it was the rest of the movie was just unexpected because I was like, okay, it's not what I thought.
See, it's kind of unfortunate because I had happened across some spoilers for this movie before having the opportunity to see it. And so I kind of knew where it was going from the start, which does add a different layer to how you interpret things as you're watching it. I don't think it like ruined the movie for me because there's still like all of the performances were great. I know especially, I mean, there's only 3 main characters, but all of them have gotten lots of praise as far as their acting abilities. I thought the cinematography was great. I have a couple more detailed comments on that later, but it was just such a unique experience, which I guess is not too uncommon for Yugos. Is that his name? The director?
Yeah, let me get it right.
Yorgos. My bad.
Yorgos, yeah.
But yeah, I've obviously we recently did Poor Things, which I feel like kind of also had that sort of style, and then I just learned that he did The Lobster, which I saw way back in the day, and that also is like it's just you watch the movie and it feels like a very specific, like it's almost like a fever dream.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. Where you're like, yeah, you think it's going one way, but then it just there's this surrealist aspect to it where you're like, okay, now we're off the rails here.
Well, but I think even before it goes off the rails, I think just the way that it's shot and written and performed feels surreal.
Right.
Like even in the normal parts, you're like something is just.
We're still in the dreamland.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I could see that.
But yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, I guess we'll see how it performs tomorrow. And who knows when this episode's going to come out. The Oscars will be long gone by the time people see this. But yeah, I thought it was good. I really liked it.
Yeah,
despite having information that I would have preferred not to have, I think it was still a good experience.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it.
And it definitely seems like something where a second viewing might be beneficial because I feel like there is this whole mystery aspect when you're watching it the first time,
right?
And then to get to the end and then go back and watch the nuance in everyone's performances and be like, Oh, I see now.
Yeah.
And there are like small things that people say that like the first time you're like, that's a little odd, and then the second time you're like, oh, I get it
Right.
now.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's true because it's, it shows you just enough to give you an impression of everybody, but as we get further along, you start to learn more about what brought them there to begin with.
Hmm.
And I think that's important for how this played out. Not to say that the twist here was like an oh my gosh thing, but it definitely gave an understanding of how we got there.
Hmm.
So
Well, and also it's like there is. Well, I'll save that for later. But yeah, suffice it to say, I think that definitely worth watching. Possibly worth watching twice.
oh yeah.
That said, let's do a summary. So, spoiler warning, if you haven't seen the movie yet, stop now. This movie starts with Jesse Plemons, who is Teddy. His name is Teddy, and his cousin Dawn,
Mhm.
who are in the middle of.
Do we know where necessarily?
No, I noticed that there's a scene with a police vehicle and it says county sheriff, but it doesn't list what county.
Okay.
So I think it's just supposed to be like vague
Oh, yeah.
in the location. I don't think they have like a
rural-ish
Yeah.
sort of area, but yeah.
but Teddy and Dawn are, it seems, planning something. They're like working out, and Teddy is like talking to his cousin about like, okay, we have to be serious about this. We can't have any distractions, blah blah blah. And then that gets intercut with Emma Stone's character, Michelle, I think Michelle Fuller, who is, I don't know if she's I think she's the CEO, but I don't know if okay. But yeah, she is the head of a pharmaceutical company, and we see her morning routine where she's like getting up. She like does martial arts practice before going into work, and then yeah, so it's just intercutting between her getting ready for her day and then these two guys getting up to something. But then we see, and there's this interesting scene where she's, because apparently there was like some, I think she was maybe newly hired as the CEO or something, because they keep talking about there being a big change to the company, but I don't know if that's her, I don't know if her is the big change, or if, because she had an interview about diversity, and so I'm led to believe that her becoming the CEO is the change in the company, and then she wants to have a more sweeping change, but she's also still very corporate minded. And so like she's telling one of her assistants, she's like, hey, let everyone know that they're free to leave at 5:30, but also if they have work to do, they probably shouldn't leave, but I don't want to force them to stay here, but also and it's just like this constant back and forth, and it's like you can see that she just wants the appearance of a more friendly workplace without actually doing anything.
Which is funny because I think that that's always how it is. It's like, yes, give the illusion of work-life balance, but at the end of the day, the people, the corporate workers are going to feel the pressure regardless, so they'll stay anyways, I think.
And so then, as she is on her way home from work, we see Teddy and Dawn have suited up. They have like overalls and I think Jennifer Aniston masks.
Mhm.
There's like cut out papers, and they ambush her in front of her house and drug her and kidnap her. And then on the way back to their place, they shave her head. And this is what I mean, I guess there was already kind of obvious, but it's like, I guess the most obvious here that Teddy is like a hardcore conspiracy theorist, because the reason that they shave her head is because Teddy thinks that she's an alien and that her hair will allow her to communicate. Yeah. And so shave her head, take her back to their house, chain her up in the basement. They rub antihistamine cream on her because that's supposed to also weaken her somehow. And then there's just a long sequence of scenes with them arguing, where obviously Michelle Fuller, Emma Stone's character, I might just call her Emma Stone because I can't remember her character's name.
Yeah.
But she wakes up and is like trying to rationalize with them at first, and is like, hey, just so you know, I'm important. People are gonna notice that I'm gone, and they're gonna find you, and you're gonna go to jail. And obviously it's too too ingrained in Teddy's mind, and so he's like not giving up, and all the while trying to convince Dawn, because I guess the part that we haven't mentioned is I think Dawn is a little autistic.
He's off a little bit. He has something.
Because I know I don't know if it's specifically autism, but he has some sort of mental disability, and I guess we can talk more about this towards the end. But one of the, I guess, interesting things is that the actor is also on the spectrum.
Okay.
So it's like it's not someone pretending to have a mental disability. They just found a neurodivergent actor.
Gotcha. And I think I did make a note of that. I was like, well, is this an actor that portrays someone as such, or do they find an actor that has that already?
Yeah,
whatever it may be.
And so Teddy's trying to convince his cousin that, like, don't trust anything she says. She's just trying to make you sympathize with her. And like, they have a little like baby cam watching her in the basement, and she's crying. And he's like, no, the crying is fake. That she knows that you're watching her. And all of this back and forth. And meanwhile, we do see that because Teddy goes into work the next day, and like, all of the TVs in the office are talking about their missing CEO.
And it was his CEO technically, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
he works at the company that she is the head of.
Right.
But it's I guess I don't really know they don't explain the company a whole lot, but like, she's on the corporate side and he's like in a warehouse packaging boxes. I almost thought it was like an Amazon type of company at first, but then they keep talking about drug trials and things. So I was like, okay, obviously this is some sort of pharmaceutical company.
Right.
But he goes back and there's more interrogations. He's trying to he says that 3 days from now there's going to be a lunar eclipse, and her mothership can come to Earth only during a lunar eclipse, and that he wants her to grant him an audience with their emperor, king, whatever, in order to negotiate them leaving Earth and letting humans be alone. And she is just obviously keeps denying everything. She's like, I'm not an alien. But then eventually she figures that playing along is probably the best way to get out of this. And so he gives her a recorder, and he's like, just record a message for your mothership. And she records a silly like, hey, I'm an alien, and boy, I sure would love my friend here to come with me. And obviously he is not buying that. And
for Jesse Plemons, I found this to be a very aggressive role for him. Like, I've seen him in other like roles where he's not the good guy, but this role, he's very dark, very aggressive in this one.
And he's definitely, you can see he is prone to outbursts. Because like, after hearing the recording, he like smashes the recorder against the wall. He breaks one of his chairs. He just, like, the entire movie, he is holding back such rage. And it's obviously not uncommon for delusional people because I mean, when you are fully convinced that you know something and no one else knows it,
right,
and then you have this person lying straight to your face, it's like, I can imagine that would be pretty angering.
Yeah.
But it definitely was a interesting performance for Jesse Plemons.
And I think, speaking of the rage, I didn't quite understand the rage until we understood that the company that he works for and that she's the CEO of, his mom is being treated by them on some trial special,
right,
drug, but we don't know her ailment either. But she's
there's these
in a coma.
We keep
or
getting
something.
Like these black and white, I want to say flashbacks, but at the same time they're also like not realistic, so I don't know if those are genuine flashbacks or like some mixture of what he remembers versus all of the other weird things happening in his head. But Emma Stone's character says that his mother was part of some drug trial and they paid them well, and I don't remember if it was like trying to treat her for, I guess the trial drug was an opioid, and then she became addicted, so then they were trying to treat her for her opioid addiction, and that ended up putting her in a coma. And so obviously there's like all of these personal reasons for Teddy why he's angry with this person, and the genuine trauma response plus his conspiracy are sort of just like all swirling around together. And we also find out at one point, because he keeps getting stopped by the county sheriff, who I guess used to be his babysitter when he was younger. And at one point he mentions, "Hey, I'm sorry about what I did to you." And I that read to me as like there
Sexual
was
assault
sexual abuse of some
Mhm.
sort.
Yeah.
Which just like obviously even furthers the point that like, hey, this guy is fucked up. Like, obviously had problems with his babysitter, had problems with his mom. Like, he just cannot catch a break, and you can see how a history like that could lead someone to such extreme ideas.
Sure. A side note though, the county sheriff is Stavros, and he's a stand-up comedian, and he's about he's like 30. So for him to play a character that's 20 years older than Jesse Plemons, I found to be really funny. So
Yeah.
oh geez.
There there comes a point where, as part of them testing Fuller, they hook her up to electrodes,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's like a crank to dial it up, and I think he like slowly, like, he does like 100 volts and then 200, and I think he eventually gets up to like 400 or 500, and then something like all of the lights in the house start flickering, and something about that makes him realize that this is not just an ordinary alien, but alien royalty. And so he's like, okay, let's start over. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean for any of this to go the way that it did. I'm just trying to save the planet. And so that's when I think the scene is one of the more popular ones in the trailers that have come out. But they sit down for dinner and they start talking, and this is where she mentions that she does remember him because of his mother and all of the drug problems, and they tried to pay them for all of the troubles, but she was like, obviously we could have paid more, we should pay more, we can pay more. But he's just over here fuming because he is trying to not only convince her, but I think a bit trying to convince himself that the alien thing and his trauma with his mother are separate.
Yeah.
And so he's like, don't talk about my mom. We don't need to talk about that. That's got nothing to do with this. And she's like, obviously it has something to do with
We
this.
wouldn't be here otherwise. Yeah.
And that's when he just like launches himself across the table and starts beating her up. But then she manages to break free and almost chokes him to death until Dawn hits her with the back of a rifle and knocks her out. They bring her back down to the basement, and while that's happening, the sheriff pops up again and wants to wants to check up on him, but is also continuing to investigate the missing CEO.
It was very interesting because I got the sense that the sheriff, whatever his name was already aware that Teddy is an unstable person.
Yeah.
Not only because of his participation in his trauma, but he already has good suspicion that Teddy's involved with the disappearance of Emma Stone's character. So it's
sort of one of those where
he's like, I'm treading on, I gotta walk easy a little bit.
Right. Well, because it's like at that point, there's no hard evidence pointing to Teddy, but he's like, I know this man is not right in the head, and so there's a chance that he did something.
Yeah, if there's anyone in my county that would do it, it's this guy. So, it was an interesting, he's like, we're gonna keep it cool, man, but let me ask you some questions.
Yeah.
So,
eventually invites him outside because they are also beekeepers. And there's a lot of them talking about like that's actually one of the conversations they have during the dinner scene, is about how amazing bees are as a species. And Emma Stone, again, can't remember her name, keeps talking about like their work ethic and how they just like do what needs to be done without complaining, which feels like such a CEO.
Yeah.
Like that of course that's what she admires about them. And so Teddy takes the cop out to look at his bees. Meanwhile, Dawn is in the basement with the rifle, and Emma Stone's still trying to like, hey, if you let me out of here, I can help you. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, your cousin's probably going to jail, but you don't have to if you just help me. And he's like, shut up, don't talk to me. I'm not supposed to talk to you. It just keeps telling her to shut up. But then at one point he asks her, he's like, hey, if you are an alien, would you help me get away from here? And she's like, what do you mean? Like, where do you want to go? I can take you anywhere. And he's like, like in your spaceship, would you take me with you? And she's like, okay, first of all, I'm not an alien, but also, yes, if I was, obviously, I promise I would take you with me. And he's like, but we have to take Teddy as well. And she's like, I just don't know if we have that much time. That you obviously heard, there's a cop upstairs. They're going to come down here. They're going to arrest you both. But if you help me right now, I can take you with me. And he's like, okay, fine. And then just blows his head off with the shotgun, which I don't know about you, was not expecting that. I feel like I caught it like 3 seconds before it happened. When he said, I'm ready to leave, I was like, I know what that means.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, it's got to be around the same time of being like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
But up until that point, I never expected that.
Mm-hmm. Which is too bad, because like we don't really know much of Don's trauma or anything that he's gone through other than living and being a part of
Right.
Teddy's
well, and it also
situation.
really makes you not on Teddy's side, because there's obviously on one level he has his own problems with being a conspiracy theorist, but then to purposely force these ideas on your mentally challenged cousin who can't think, like he even says in the basement, he's like, I don't have anyone else. And so all he has is Teddy just feeding him all of this bullshit, and has no choice but to believe it. And even at one point convinces him, this is towards the beginning of the movie, but they like inject themselves with I think some weird form of estrogen.
They chemically castrate themselves somehow, but Teddy's done the research, and he's like, all right, we got to do this in order to not get influenced by the alien when we're in contact with her.
But when they're talking about that, Donna's like, well, I just was hoping that one day I'd end up with someone.
Yeah.
And it's just it just feels so evil to have all of these things forced on Don.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it ends up killing himself, and then obviously out near the beehives, they hear the shotgun, and so Teddy like freaks out, flips over a beehive, rips off the like protective suit helmet, not the thing that covers beekeepers
suit. Yeah.
And so he's getting stung by a bunch of bees, and then he also takes a shovel and whacks him over the head a few times. And then goes inside, and he is just absolutely ready to kill her. But then she is like, I guess even more convincingly at this point, she's like, okay, you're right. First of all, he did this to himself. I didn't do anything. However, you can't kill me because you know that I have the information necessary to save your planet. And so she tells him that she has, or sorry, no, I think that part comes later. She stops him from killing him by saying that she has a cure for his mother.
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, you're right, I'm an alien, and we have her on some trial, but I have a chemical in the back of my truck, and if you give it to her, she'll wake up and she'll be all better. And obviously, I mean, he's desperate at this point, and so he goes out, and it's antifreeze, but she tells him, she's like, it's not actually antifreeze. And so he takes the jug of antifreeze out of the back of her truck, rushes all the way to the hospital where his mom is being kept, and injects it into her IV bag. And then he's like sitting there waiting for her to wake up, and then she starts convulsing and ultimately dies. Obviously at this point he knows that he has been tricked, so he grabs his gun, goes back to the house. But while he is doing all of that, Emma Stone manages to get out of her restraints and finds a secret room in the basement that has just like body parts everywhere, and like a whole body on a table, and a whole bunch of books and videos and different documents. And so she's reading up on all of this, and when he gets back home, she is like very a lot more confrontational, and is basically just like, what have you done? I've killed all these people, and how many of them were aliens? And he's like, two. And she's like, you're a fucking monster. And he's like, you killed my mom. And she's like, no, you killed your mom.
Yeah, yeah. And so still playing into his psychosis, his, the whatever rabbit hole he's been going down, but we know now that she's not the first one at that point.
Right.
And then we also know that
Well, and that was one of the other things
Yeah.
when I was mentioning the like awkward dialogue, is because during a couple of the scenes earlier is like he kept like I think the first time he was interrogating her, he said like they all confess eventually.
Oh yeah.
And then
Yeah, yeah.
when he was electrocuting her, he made a comment about like it's never gone this high before.
Right.
And I'm just like, so how many times have you done this?
Right.
And of course here we find out that
Mhm.
it's practically a serial killer. Like he's just been doing this over and over again. It's amazing that he hasn't been caught. But yeah, and so she's like, okay, if you really want to talk, then we have to go back to my office because that's how I can contact the mothership or whatever. And she's like, I mean, we're already so close at this point, because I think it's like the following night is the lunar eclipse. And so they go back to the office. Obviously everyone's super confused because she's been gone for like 3 days now. And she's just like, yep, happy to be here. And like she's got a little bit of a limp because he like bashed out her kneecap earlier.
Oh yeah. Oh.
But they get up to her office, and then she has a calculator, and she's like, okay, I have to type in this code, and that will allow that will transmit the signal to the mothership, and then the transporter is over there in that closet, which is just like such like, obviously if you're talking to a crazy person, like you can
You're
just
like,
say
yeah,
whatever.
Sure, right.
Yep, teleporter's right over here.
But upon them arriving on the campus of her company, it's revealed that Teddy's wearing improvised explosives.
Right.
Right. So that the goal is, okay, if you're gonna try and blow the lid on this, I'll just blow us up.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I think she doesn't find that out until they're in her office.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so he's got an explosive vest on, and she's like, I need to remember this code, just shut up for a minute. And then she finally like types it all in, and she's like, yep, that's it. All I have to do is press enter, convinces him to go into the closet, and then this part was a little confusing for me because she hits enter on the calculator, and that somehow causes his vest to blow up.
I think that's what we're led to believe, but I don't know.
Because she obviously knew it was gonna blow up because she was like hiding behind the column when she pressed it.
Right.
But I'm like, I don't understand physically how that happened.
Right.
But yeah, so he gets in the closet, his vest goes off, and then his severed head flies out and hits her in the head. And then she is being taken to the hospital. She's in the ambulance. They're like, you're gonna be all right. And she's like, yeah, I know. And then after she confirms that Teddy is actually dead, she just jumps out of the ambulance, walks back into the building and back into her office, grabs the calculator, and then types in a different number, and then goes in the closet, and it turns out that it was all real.
She is an alien, and she goes to the mothership.
It gets in the closet and teleports to this alien ship where everyone is wearing like these big,
it looks comfy,
like knitted like sweater outfits. But she like rises up. It's almost womb like she crawls out of this fluid, and it feels very birthy. But eventually she gets all dressed up. She's got this nifty hat on, and she's talking to the other aliens on the ship about their like experiments that they've been doing, and they're like, all of them have failed except for 2, and we're pretty sure those are going to fail as well. And so it seems that because she told one of her lies earlier when she was talking to Teddy was that the Emperor really wants humanity to work, even though a lot of other people have discussed just getting rid of them, because Teddy thought that I think they're the Andromedans, is like from the Andromeda galaxy, thinks that they're here to exterminate humanity, and she's like, no, you're wrong. There are some who want to kill you, but the Emperor still thinks that there's hope. And it seems that a little bit of that is true, because when she's talking to the aliens at the end, she like feels kind of sad that all of the experiments have failed.
Yeah, I got a sense of not regret, but just kind of a sadness that it didn't work out.
Right. And so then we see there's like a table with the Earth on it, and I don't know if this is meant to be like a representational controller.
I like that it was flat. That was my favorite.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing is there's several I guess time cards during the movie where it's like 3 days until the eclipse, 2 days until the eclipse, and on the first one it looks like a very normal image of Earth, but then every time slot it does that, it rotates a little bit, and eventually you see that it's flat Earth.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, this is awesome. It was so good.
So yeah, I don't know if it's meant to be like the aliens are huge and that's actually Earth right there, or if it's like some controller that affects real Earth out in the galaxy.
I took it to think it was more like just a model. That would control it,
but she obviously there's the dome over the flat Earth, and she just like pops it, and then we just see a bunch of scenes where literally everyone on Earth is dead. And
humans, though, particularly.
Yeah, that was another thing that's confusing, because I was
why?
like, if the atmosphere's gone, why are the animals still alive?
Right, yeah, because I read that as, okay, she popped the atmosphere.
Right.
So all life should have been gone, but it was only humans. Yeah.
Somehow only humans.
Yeah, why did you
I don't really get that.
Yeah.
So but yeah, that's how the movie ends. It's just all human life on the planet is wiped out.
Crazy.
So yeah, that is Bugonia. We're gonna take a quick break and then we'll come back. And we're back. We've obviously already touched on a couple of things, like I really thought the huge knitted outfits were fun. The flat Earth thing, like the ending especially, I think was just kind of funny. Especially there's a moment where she mentions like, sorry I couldn't signal you earlier, they took my hair. And it's just like the fact that specific thing he was right about.
Well, yeah, like the whole imagine the crazy recluse that believes in all this stuff. The one guy out of the billions of people on the planet, he's right about it. I like that. It's not an underdog thing, but I was like, yeah, the crazy guy he nailed it.
I am, I guess, a little. I don't know how I feel about the ending, because it was entertaining. And like as a movie, I enjoyed it, but I feel like with the current social situation and like there is a real rise in conspiracy theories and people believing crazy shit like this, and so to have a movie where the crazy person is right feels a little dangerous to me.
Going back to what you said about the electrocution scene, that was not when I kind of caught on to something being off, but I was like, wait a second, how much voltage can the human body deal with?
I was thinking about that as well.
Like, yeah, like what's our limit?
I feel like she would have died by then.
Right, because it was an intense scene, but I was like, wait a second, he's really cranking that up. So I thought that was
I'll look that up actually.
Yeah, but yeah, the scenes with Teddy's outbursts, they felt raw. And of course, at that point in the movie, you're sympathizing with Emma Stone's character and be like, man, she's going through such a terrible ordeal, this and that. And not to say, even though she is an alien, that no reason to torture her or whatever, but it's like, oh my gosh, this guy is unhinged a little bit.
Okay, so the other thing is that lethality has a lot to do with resistance, and skin resistance can change. And so this is saying that like dry skin has a very high resistance and so requires a higher voltage, whereas wet skin has lower resistance and so could be deadly as low as 50 volts.
So that's why they do the wet sponge for the electric chair then.
Guess, I don't know.
Well, have you seen the what is it, the Green Mile?
Actually, it's one that I've been meaning to watch, but I never saw it.
Well, that one's very poignant in that point, because there's a scene that mentions that, but I guess that makes sense. But so in this case it was dry skin, but
also how dry was it? Because they kept putting that cream on her.
is it conductive?
I don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, that being said, I mean that was kind of the first what's going on here
Yeah.
thing, but
yeah, I like I said, before watching this, I had already known that she ended up being an alien, and so from the beginning, I was kind of just reading all of the situations differently, and I think that's the other thing is, and I guess ties back into my problem with the ending, is I think just because he was right doesn't mean that he's the good guy. Like, obviously, his actions
right.
still led to everyone dying, so
Right.
there's that, but also he's killed a bunch of people. Some of them were probably just humans.
Yep.
He is he led to his cousin's suicide. Like, there really are, and I think painting him in that light and making Emma Stone's character so much more sympathetic really helps maintain the uncertainty if you don't already know. But going into it knowing that she was an alien and being able to see the levels of, like, there, especially early on, you see a couple reaction shots of her just like making faces, or like you can tell she's thinking about something, but it could be read as either like, how do I get out of this? Like, how this crazy person kidnapped me, or you read it as like, this person has figured everything out and I need to figure out a way to lie to him.
Yeah, and you know, of course, looking back, there are definitely reactions that are her trying to get out of the situation, but I think the rage that we see in her face when he comes back from having killed his mom is legitimate.
Yeah.
You know, how many Andromedans were there? You know, like, because, you know, all of a sudden now that's her people now that she's worried about.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so looking back on it, it's like, yeah, you do see some, I'm just trying to get out of it versus this is a legit reaction that I was not expecting to have from this guy. So I thought that was an interesting play.
I also, during the kidnapping scene, I thought it was interesting because we did have the scene earlier of her practicing with her trainer or whatever,
Right.
and like doing a self-defense class or whatever that is. But then it's like all of this, it sort of shows the artifice of it is like you have all of these different classes and stuff, but like if there's a crazy person coming after you, there's not much that's gonna stop them.
Well, especially when there's two of them, and it's like,
And they have a drug, as like, you're not gonna get out of that with a couple elbows and a judo flip.
And I found that to be kind of strange too, because, you know, well, like, especially you know, the pharmaceutical CEO that was shot last year by what's his face, but anyway,
Allegedly.
allegedly. Well, I mean, regardless, I mean, the there is a level of industry where it's like, yeah, you probably need to have a security detail and this and that, because, you know, like Martin Shkreli, you know, with you know, hiking the price of insulin and all that, you're probably, you know, regardless of what decision you make, you're probably not making everybody happy. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I found it interesting that she didn't have more security there.
Right.
You know, it's a little too convenient for my liking. But the other thing, it was lost on me why Teddy and Don were beekeepers. Why bees, and why was that important to them? I got none. I had no answer for
think
that.
they maybe just needed a hobby.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it did make me question, like, there were so many times where I was uncertain. Like, it's very clear that Dawn is very attached to Teddy and is like, will do whatever he asks. I'm not sure how much care there is in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell sometimes whether Teddy actually wants to help Don or if he's just using him. And like, obviously he was upset when he died, but like, it doesn't, I don't know, it seemed like more of like there wasn't much care beyond that. Like, it's like, obviously I don't want my cousin to die, but I'm totally fine doing all of this other bullshit and chemically castrating him and all this stuff, and like,
well, because I think he was about the mission to the end, and I think that was made clear through that exchange, because the loss of Don did not deter him from what he was trying to do.
right.
So I think he cared for him, but he felt his purpose and his mission outweighed whatever grief he may have had. So, which also goes to the, you know, the
Yeah, and I mean,
crazy
I
part
guess
of it,
to
you know.
to his credit, only so much credit you can give him, but he brings Don's body with him to the office because he thinks that there's a chance they can bring him back. So it's like, it's not that he doesn't care about his cousin, but it's clear that his cousin's well-being is not his top priority.
Correct. Yeah. But knowing that she is an alien, could she have brought him back and chose not to?
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
we don't see
like,
evidence that they have that
like,
kind of power.
But I'm just like, I wonder, like, knowing that it's all true, like the whole ending, I was just like, man, it was all for naught, like you said. I was like, dang, that was a bummer.
Yeah.
I thought that was sad. I thought the movie ended on a sad note.
I think.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, and it's not like, because I mean, to some degree, there are only two options. Either she does end up being an alien, or he's just crazy.
Right.
And I think that both of those have their own issues, and there's not like one answer that would have been the best. I think for me personally, I would have preferred it if we just never found out. I think if the movie had ended and it's like, sure, it can be the same up until she gets into the closet. Like Jesse Plemons blows himself up and she's in the ambulance, and then have just like some last little hint where it's like, I'm still not sure if she's an alien or not, and just leave it at that. I think that would have worked for me. But going on to reveal that she was actually an alien, like I said, I am not a fan of giving credence to those kinds of ideas.
What ideas?
Aliens and flat Earth and all that other kind of stuff.
Oh, I see. I think,
and it's not like I think that like everyone's gonna watch this and be like, yeah, this stuff is real, but like there's a reason crazy people are crazy. Like if someone who is already conspiracy minded sees this film, I could see it affecting them in a negative way.
Sure. Like I could see that. Like, yeah, you don't want to give fuel to the flame. I get that. But I think going as far as they did at the end helps establish this as more of a dark satire.
100%. No, I agree that that's definitely what they were going for. I just don't know. The unfortunate thing is, and the reason why I think this, especially in the current social climate, can be dangerous, is because there have been a lot of instances over the past 10 or so years where something comes out that is obviously satire, but then some people just like still don't get it and think that it's serious.
And I don't think that's a media problem or, being able to say and put things out there. I think it's just, unfortunately, I think it's an education problem, but I don't think it's a lesson that can be taught, which is tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like something related to the calculator, and then not going the back part of that movie would have been like perfect. But they also took the time of showing the digits on the calculator. I got no meaning from it. I might have to go back and look at what they were, but is there any correlation there? Did you pick up on that?
It's not explained, obviously, but the way I understood it was that the calculator is some sort of like universal controller, and so like the first number she typed in is what allowed her to set off his explosive.
Right.
And then she had to go back for the calculator and type in a different number to actually go home.
Right. But we see the number she types in for him, but not for her.
Right.
And
I don't know if there's a significance to
there?
what the number is.
Yeah.
It was a long number. So
well, and I think that was also part of the joke, where it's like, oh yeah, it's like 60 digits or whatever, and you're like, okay, well, give her space, guys.
Yeah. I think if she had gone back and grabbed the calculator and then it just ends with her leaving with her calculator, that would be enough to like make you question it.
I would like that. Yeah, that would have been fun. And then there was another. Oh yeah. So I caught on. I was like, oh, she's an alien, like for sure. Was like, it was just before. It was during the dialogue of between Teddy and Michelle talking about Don. Just doing that, and that it wasn't a line, it wasn't a change in scene, but there's somehow a mood shift, and I was like, oh, I think she is. But of course, I don't know until I see it, and so I had to see all the way to the end to be like, okay, she is.
There's another movie that I've been meaning to watch that is a similar sort of like coin flip of a situation. And please, if someone knows something about this, don't tell me, because I would like to go into this movie blind. I just haven't sat down to watch it yet. But I think the movie is like, it's like I Caught the Devil or something like that. And it's like, it's a similar sort of setup where like you have this person who is claiming that they have the devil trapped in their basement, and the whole movie is keeping you guessing on whether they actually do or not. And obviously, like with this movie, it's like it's heads or tails. Either they do or they don't. But I have heard a lot of good things about that movie and would like to check that out as well.
I haven't heard of it. I'll have to check it out.
I may have gotten the title wrong, but I can pull it up later.
Is it sort of recent?
I mean, within the past decade.
Yeah, I count that as recent. Yeah, not like 20 years ago.
Yeah. I also, so I'm not like a format purist or anything where I'm like widescreen's better than box frame or film is better than digital. Like, I think different ways to make movies have different advantages, and it does not matter I'm not gonna think that a movie is better because it's shot one way versus another. But I will say I think that for this movie specifically, the 4:3 aspect ratio and having it shot on film, there are qualities of those two things that I think really help the atmosphere of the film and really make it feel unique. In it, they complement the other aspects. Like another thing is like with the shots are always just like, I guess not all of them, but like a lot of the shots are just a little too wide. Like, it's like normally you would like frame like when Teddy's riding his bike. It's like a normal movie would frame that. You see the bottom of his bike. Maybe you don't even see the bottom of his bike. It's like his top of his head is top of the frame, and then you have down from there, or like top of his head is maybe centered, but it's still, it would be closer. Versus like in this movie, when he's riding his bike, it's like a way zoomed out shot, and you just like see the world around him. And like there are a lot of shots like that where they're just like, you see the characters are like that big on the screen, and being able to see the wider world really makes it feel more like, it makes it feel less personal. Like we're not in the action with these people. We're kind of like observing them from afar.
Well, and I think that's probably something to be said, you know, with humanity being an experiment for the aliens anyways. Like there's a certain disconnect.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we're just watching, you know, and yeah, it gets crazy, but we're just here to observe, man.
Yeah. It never really places you in what's happening.
Yeah.
I just thought that there was also, I noticed during a lot of the dialogue scenes, it was framed with more space behind the characters than in front of them.
Yeah.
Which is also like just a unique filmmaking choice, because like normally you would like, back of my head is closer to the back of the frame and there's more space in front of me because that's the direction I'm speaking in. But in this movie, it was a lot of like the frame cuts off right in front of their nose and there's just like empty space behind them, and it just is all of these little details that make it feel so off, and it just gives the whole film a very unsettling feeling, which I think helps.
Yeah, it did feel uneasy kind of the whole way through, and I think regardless of what action would have been going on there, it's like, okay, what's happening here, and that's how I felt the whole time. The other note that I had was, it was right at the beginning, and we were seeing kind of the daily routine of Teddy and Don. You know, they were working out in in their living room or whatever, and so obviously, you know, it's like them preparing for what they're about to do and making sure that they're physically able to do it. But I took it to mean that we don't know how long Terry and Don were living together, you know, taking care of each other, so forth.
I mean, obviously, I would assume at least a few years, because like it's been long enough that they've been able to, I guess, unless Dawn wasn't involved with the other kidnappings. But I don't know that, from what we've seen of this one, I don't know if Teddy could have pulled all of that off by himself.
Right. So yeah, I mean, maybe, I don't know, 5 years,
like had like heads in jars and severed hands, and it's just, I mean, even without the alien aspect, like that's crazy person shit.
Yeah, it is. And you know, it's like because I liked Terry's line. He was talking to Michelle, and he was kind of going down like how he got to this conclusion. But he's like, I did my own research, and immediately I was like, oh yeah, listening to the other crazy guys on YouTube, that's your independent research. And and the whole crazy part about that is like, man, he was right though. And I'm just like, you know, tying into King of the Hill, it's like if Dale Gribble was right about whatever he believes, honestly, oh my gosh, that makes the whole reality unstable, and I would not like that.
But yeah, it's just it's a wild ride. And like I said, I think it's the one thing that I will say that to me makes the ending more okay is that even though he was technically right, I don't think the movie ever paints him as a hero. Like he's still a bad person. He's just a bad person who happened to be right.
Yeah, I think given that being right can be exclusive from being good.
Right.
And is there a time to knowingly be okay with being right but not taking action on it? Or like should you just kind of eat it, you know? Like is there something to be said about that?
Well, but and the other thing is it wasn't even that he was entirely right. He was right about her being an alien, but he was wrong about several other things. He was obviously wrong about some of the people that he kidnapped. He was wrong because he thought that they were here to kill humans when they were actually here to help humans, and then just gave up because of what he did. So like it's almost like like the whole thing about like monkeys on typewriters. Like if you have 1,000 monkeys on typewriters and one of them just happens to spit out Shakespeare, it's like, well, it's still just a monkey on a typewriter.
Well, I mean, it's like, but that point was like given infinity. Given infinity, it would happen.
It's so necessary that one will type out Shakespeare.
And it's like, okay, like, but at the same time, it's like, okay,
so it's like if you may
not understand the whole picture, but you could still have a piece of it correct.
Yeah,
and you know, it's easy to see how that can get out of control. So,
but it definitely seems like I mean, it's not a perfect one-to-one with the Shakespeare monkey thing, but just the idea of like if you throw enough ideas at the wall, some of them are gonna land.
Yeah. It's like, okay, fine, you're not technically wrong, but we're not gonna give you the points for being right either.
Right. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't think I had any other notes, but wild ride.
Yeah, I thought it was fun, and overall, it really did not go the way I thought it would. I walked into this one with no prior inclination, so
I would have liked to see it without knowing the ending. But I don't think that it made it less enjoyable for me at all, which is rare because sometimes a movie like really relies on a twist like that. And so knowing the twist ahead of time, you're just like, I can see all the pieces lining up.
Right.
But I feel like there was enough here. And like even to the degree where between Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone and their performances, even knowing that she would turn out to be an alien, some of their conversations, I was like, I don't know. Like they almost made me forget that I knew.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that was the thing because, you know, it's I think it was Teddy's self-assuredness that made it be like, well, hold on now. How can you really know that? How do you really, how do you know that? And technically he didn't. You know, he had a good hunch. You know, but seeing her get caught off guard, I think also helped.
One like the things that he was listing off to Dawn as like obvious traits, like narrow feet. I'm like, oh, so everyone with narrow feet is an alien.
It's the culmination of all these. But yes, that's why aliens are here, man. I'm telling you. But
yeah.
The lesson of this movie is the Earth is flat. You heard it here first, folks.
Ridiculous. It is the other thing is who knows? Someone's going to be watching this and not know that you're joking.
Listen, we could all go to the edge and look off.
Ridiculous.
You can book your cruise right now.
All right. Well, we're going to move on from that and get into trivia. As I mentioned, Aiden Delbis, who played Don, had never acted professionally before, but Yorgos Lanthimos decided to find a non-professional neurodivergent actor to provide a different dynamic alongside Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons.
Nice.
According to cinematographer Robbie Ryan, the hardest actors to work with were the bees. The crew installed the beehives on location weeks in advance and shot on scorching days with around 30 crew members in full beekeeper suits, only for the bees to refuse to pollinate on camera. The final close-ups of bees on flowers were instead grabbed spontaneously at a completely different location near a security kiosk when the team happened upon a more cooperative hive. So they did this whole setup, and then the bees were like, not pollinating no flowers today. They're like, damn it. For screenings in Los Angeles, attendees could enter for free, but only if they were bald or agreed to shave their head on site. Emma Stone revealed in an interview that this was her idea.
Oh, I would have done that.
It was like, yeah, okay, I'll go off to see a movie. As mentioned at the beginning of the episode, Bugonia is an adaptation inspired by the 2003 South Korean film Save the Green Planet. Initially, the original director Jang Joon-hwan was set to helm this project, working with American screenwriter Will Tracy, but he had to step away for health reasons, so Yorgos Lanthimos was brought on.
Oh, interesting. Is that original movie kind of in the same vein?
Yes, I didn't do a deep dive on it, but I read a brief synopsis, and it's mostly the same, except I think it's, instead of a guy and his cousin, it's a guy and his girlfriend, and the CEO that they kidnap is a dude instead of a woman.
Okay.
But it's also like, this guy's an alien, and it keeps you back and forth, but then at the end the dude is an alien.
I like that.
And last bit of trivia, Bugonia is an ancient Greek word meaning progeny from an ox. It refers to rituals that sprang from a myth that bees could spontaneously generate from the carcass of an ox that was killed without any blood being spilled. This means of sacrifice generally resulted in prolonged suffering for the animal, e.g. by clubbing it to death. So you have to find a way to kill the animal without spilling any blood, which is horrible. But this parallels the ending of the film where humanity is wiped out also without any bloodshed in order for Earth to regenerate in its absence.
Oh.
So I suppose, obviously, the bees have something to do with that level of the metaphor.
Yeah, I was like, okay, fine.
I think it works on both ends, because on the one end is humanity is the most dominant species on the planet. We obviously have a lot of control over what happens to other animals, to the climate, to plants, to all of these things. However, I think there's sometimes a tendency to overestimate how much power we have, because maybe I'm misremembering the statistic. I don't remember the exact number, but it was 95% of every species that has ever existed has gone extinct. But it's almost all of those were before humans were around. So it's there's this natural cycle of sometimes things just die out. And yes, although it's very clear that sometimes an extinct species is directly our fault, I think we have this sort of policing complex where we feel like we have to protect all of the species and not let things happen the way that they're going to happen.
Well, so if we draw a comparison to in crime, for example, is it possible to have a murder be worse than another murder? Because by definition, we have a legal definition of murder, but is it worse, in the way the killing was done, or is it worse for the motive for it, or and
I think people do make those sorts of judgments,
right? But so the point being though, is an extinction level an extinction of a species?
Is a human caused extinction worse than a natural extinction?
That's what I'm saying, and I'm like, I don't know, because why do we? Because in my mind, if we say yes, it is, then we think that we exist outside of this natural process that happens anyways.
Right.
So,
well, because we wouldn't, I guess that's where the line becomes a little blurry, because you could say humans are part of nature and us killing things is the same as other animals killing things, but we seem to have this isn't unique to us. This is also something I get so upset when people have outdoor cats, because there are so many studies talking about how outdoor cats are horrendous for the environment, because similar to humans, cats just kill for fun. Like a lot of predators, there is balance there, because they're like, I'm hunting, I'm killing this thing because I need to eat it, and then there's time for it to have more babies and the population stables out, and then I kill some more, versus just killing because you want to kill. And that's what causes population declines. And that's like, actually just yesterday was rewatching, I don't know if you've ever seen Prey. But it takes place in the early or mid, I don't know, no, early, I think it's in 1719. And so it's like early days in the New World, and part of the a small part, but a part of the story revolves around fur trappers who are responsible for a huge, like, completely decimated the populations of American bison, because unlike indigenous people who's like, yes, they killed bison as well, but there was a lot of more like, we're using this meat, we're going to use the fur for coats, we're going to use the bones for tools, all of these things, versus these fur trappers come in and they don't care about anything except the hide. They kill 100 bison and they're just ripping skins off of all of them and leaving everything else to rot. And it's just, it's the greed that is just so destructive. And yeah, I like I said, I don't think that that is something that is unique to humans, but it is something that we should be aware of and try to control for.
Yeah, well, and I think it's interesting because we don't have you can't commercially sell game meat, for example, because of that reason. Otherwise, they get out of hand. But yet, we're fine with commercially raising chicken and pork and beef and all that. And it's like, well, we could easily do that with those animals too. And so I'm like, why? I think there's for some reason we're okay with ethical treatment of some animals and not others. And it's we don't have a good answer for a lot of these things, but we do it. We do things. So I don't know. It's but to that point, yeah. I mean, it's like, is it better or worse because it's caused by us? I don't know. I tend to think not, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think in the grand scheme of things, there is very little difference, but I don't think that that should stop us from trying to avoid causing extinctions.
Yeah, it's I think it's in the pursuit of, as opposed to actually achieving it.
Right.
I don't think we actually get there.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, and that applies much more broadly, is just like how people say perfect is the enemy of good. It's like, just because you can't perfectly do something doesn't mean you shouldn't try.
Right.
Because trying to be perfect is what allows you to do the best that you can do, versus if you're just like, well, we're never gonna get there anyway, then you don't try as hard. It's just a natural result.
Yeah, and it's don't let perfect be the what's the phrase?
Don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
There you go. So it's I think with that, intention is important, but at the same time, it could also bite you in the butt too, because Teddy thought he was doing something good. How he went about it was probably not great, but his intention for him was correct.
Yeah.
So how do you reconcile it when you have maybe the same intent, but the way you go about it are wildly different?
I would say it's more like with any rule, there are exceptions. I think obviously some people are going to have good intentions and do something very wrong, but I think on average, if everyone is trying, there are going to be more good results than bad results.
Yeah, I think so too. But I also think that general statement and thought is I tend to think most people share that, but I know there's like it comes down to, is man fundamentally good or is man fundamentally evil? I think different cultures, different viewpoints could lead someone to different answers on that one. But yeah, I think for the most part, we tend to believe that we're good and the people around us are good.
Yeah, and I mean, I think good and bad are obviously very subjective things. I think something that is much more easily evidential is that humans are inherently cooperative. I think that there tends to be a lot of, especially online, but like you can't really trust things you see online, but there is an increasing atmosphere of distrust for your neighbors, distrust for the government, distrust for scientists. And I think that that bubble has to burst eventually, because the reason that humanity was able to take over the world is because we're so good at working together. We evolved as a communal species, and I think that trusting the people around you and working for a collective benefit rather than your own selfish benefit is in our DNA.
I think that's how it tends to play out, and that's how it should, but I think that's how it happens at the macro level, but I think on day-to-day interactions, we get there still by focusing on the self a little bit.
A little bit, but I don't think that that is the main driver.
Not the main driver, but like I how do I say it? I think
Because I think even some things that can feel selfish on the surface can have a deeper cooperative necessity.
sure, yeah, like you could still act in your own self-interest, but take people with you.
Right. Or like even something as simple as like, you're like, oh, well, I just go to work because I need the money to pay my bills. And that on the surface, that feels very self-centered. But it relies on this much larger network of like, you are trusting that if you go and do this job, your boss is going to pay you. You are trusting that when you go to the store with money, you're going to be able to spend it on something. Money itself is just one big trust idea. Money only has value because we all agree that it does.
Well, it was what's his name? The economist, but he wrote the gosh dang it. Well, anyways, look it up. But his whole thing was something Smith. But regardless, that was his whole thing. He's like, you build an economy because you need somebody to make the nails and someone else to make the steel and then someone else to build the train, right? And it's like we are, his whole thing was like, we are made up of a complex network, and no one by themselves is as successful as a collective.
Right.
So understanding that, yeah, it's detriment. Well, bringing that up back to Terry, it was, he was the odd man out, you know, and it's like he was the rogue going on doing his mission. It's like, well, and I think the cinematography that you mentioned, it's like he felt small in certain shots, and it's like, yeah, he's a small piece of a larger thing, but he never tapped, like he didn't have the community around it.
Well, and even the part where he's like, I did all this by myself, and then there's a pause, and he's like with help from
yeah, exactly. and so it's just like, yeah, no, we are never as successful on our own as we are with each other. And I don't think that was necessarily a message in this movie, but it got brought out, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
So
that was a bit of a tangent. I don't even remember how we got. I think we were just talking about bees. But...
Well, bees are good, everybody. All bees, not just honeybees.
Yes. But yeah, I would love to hear what everyone else thought about this movie. And obviously, like I mentioned earlier, by the time you see this episode, the Oscars will be over. But would love to hear what your favorite Oscar nominees are and why. I think maybe we'll get into a bit more of these.
Yeah.
Because I mean, so far I haven't been disappointed with any of the ones I've seen. But let's get wrecked.
Let's get wrecked. My goodness. I'm gonna say this is gonna be another book sort of recommendation, but get plugged in with your local library, because you can get plugged in with Libby, and if you have a Kindle, you can basically rent your library's books through Libby and then get them on your Kindle. Cool. So I learned that, and that was a very cool thing.
Does that work with the Kindle app as well, or do you have to have a physical Kindle?
Nope. You can do it through the Kindle app. Yeah, good point. It's easier to set up through the Kindle app, but I use it on my physical Kindle device, but you could do it through the app as well. So
cool. My recommendation is going to be for Cyberpunk Edge Runners. Which I think on a previous episode I had recommended Cyberpunk 2077, which is a video game. Edge Runners is an anime based in the same universe as the video game. It's on Netflix. It's 10 episodes. It's pretty short. I think each episode is like 20 to 30 minutes. So you can get through it pretty quickly. But it's I guess maybe more. I don't necessarily know what's a better order if you want to like watch the show first and then play the game. I played the game first, and so then watching the show felt like it was just fun to spend more time in that world. And seeing the technology and like a few small subtle references to the game. The plot lines are not tied together at all, so it's not like you have to do one to understand the other. But yeah, it's pretty enjoyable.
Nice. Good deal.
All right. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and tell your friends and family about us. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and hit the bell icon. Those things are actually super helpful. I don't know how YouTube's algorithm does what it does, but interacting with our videos, whether that's leaving a comment or subscribing or all of those things, not only does that help you because you get to see our videos more often, but it also tells YouTube to recommend us to other people, which helps us. So please do that. Otherwise, you can leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. You can also follow us on Bluesky and Instagram at CasualFanPod. If you want to send us a message, you can DM us, leave a comment, or send an email to CasualFanaticPodcast@gmail.com. Links for all of those things will be in the description. Want to thank you for continuing to spend time with me while Luke is gone. And I mean, obviously, even once Luke is back, you're more than welcome to join us. I know we had a lot of fun last time. It was the three of us. So thanks again.
Yeah, no worries. All right, guys.
Yeah, and on that note, this has been Casual Fanatic. Thanks for listening.